Hi there, it's Dan here from Flexxable, and today we're going to talk about using direct mail to get clients for AI automation agencies. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm really pumped to have Luke Jaten on the webinar today. It's a recording from a couple of days ago. He is the OG of direct mail, lumpy mail, and also postcards. He's done many millions, and he's one of the direct response gurus. So it's really great to have him on board. And it's really great to hear some of his wisdom and kind of what you can write in the direct mail letters, what you can write on the postcards in order to be able to get attention and get people to book into what we call coffee dates. And what we're selling as an agency right now is database reactivation with AI. And we are able to approach clients on a performance basis and share the profits with them. So there's no upfront costs and AI does all the work, right? So it's a very attractive offer because there's no risk to the clients. You know, they come on board. If there's no results, they don't pay for anything. And also they know they need ChatGPT in their business and AI in their business. They don't know what they need it for. So letting it loose on their database is a really good low entry place to start. So it's a really great offer, and combine that with direct mail and it's over. You know, it's really cool. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to the call with Luke and we'll go from there. So yeah, how to get coffee dates with direct mail. With direct mail, we don't need any ad spend. We don't need any automation. We don't need a computer science degree. I did a webinar a few weeks ago with a guy called Cedric, and he has this amazing cold outreach automation thing which scrapes all sorts of different websites and uses AI. And to be honest, you know, it's amazing, but it's kind of like it's not what I would kind of do myself. You know what I mean? Like maybe I come from a little bit of the old school, but you know, because that works and some people love it. But today I wanted to kind of go back the opposite direction and match up with Luke, and we'll talk about Luke a bit in a sec, and see what we can do with direct mail and see if we can get on some coffee dates with clients the old school way. All right, so a little bit about me. This is me and my family. I run my own lead gen agency where I do all of this automation stuff, Flex Digital, and I also have my training community over here at Flexxable, as you guys know. You've seen this screenshot before. This is me back in the day when I had hair and used to play basketball. I like to think I move relatively fast up and down the court back then. And I also like to do that in business, so I move pretty quick. And if that's not you and you want to move a bit slower, then that's fine. But I've always found people that, I use the analogy of jumping out of a plane and building the parachute on the way down is generally the way I like to do stuff. And if that's not you, that's fine, but that's the way it works for me. I would also say that everyone sits on the bench at some point in their career. Like, we always can learn from someone new. And it's a big reason why I've got Luke on the call today. So Luke, tell us just a little bit about yourself. The background, I think I was put in contact with you a couple of years ago by a guy called Travis Sago. And I reached out, and I remember we did a bit of stuff selling one of my offers through direct mail. I didn't kind of have enough follow through back then, and I don't think my offer was good enough. But here we are again. We'll talk about our offer in a little bit and how it's been going. And it's a much better offer. But yeah, tell us a bit about yourself and go from there.
How old are you, Dan?
I'm 46.
46. Wow, I remember 46. I'm 56. I got 10 years on you.
Oh.
I was gonna, you know, kind of, I usually start by just quickly saying I've been doing direct response, like ran my first magazine ads when I was 18 back in the 80s, the 1980s. And since then I've used, you know, just about every single advertising medium that's come along. And, you know, some are better than others. Somewhere along the way, around 96 or so, I started using direct mail. I had gotten really good at using classified ads to drive calls, and we would do sales on the phone, and I did that for a bunch of different companies. And at one point I wanted to expand, and there were only so many places you could run ads. So, you know, I knew this guy that was a printer, and he was printing stuff for me because we would mail stuff after somebody would contact us. This is the old days, folks.
Yeah.
And I was in the print shop, uh, and looking at all this stuff. Like, he had pallets of these printed, he had postcards and self mailers and all this stuff. And I said, do people mail all that? He goes, oh yeah, I've got a guy here that's mailing 1 million pieces a month. And I said, wow, what kind of response is he getting? We went back and forth about numbers, and I said, maybe I should be doing that. And so I started doing direct mail around that time, and I've used it a lot of times since then. When the internet started to become something that was viable, advertising wise, at least in my mind, was around 2000, 2001, when people started I started noticing that I found myself comfortable enough to put a credit card into an order form online. And that's when I knew, okay, the internet's probably mature enough to do something here. And so then I spent a bunch of years just doing internet stuff, and found my way back to direct mail maybe 5 or 6 years after that. So
Yeah.
long story short, I love all kinds of direct response, but
Yeah.
direct mail has kind of got a sweet spot in my heart because it's one of those things that just has so many cool benefits. You can do it in private. None of your competitors know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, there's no algorithm stopping you from doing what you want to do. As long as you're within the law, nobody's telling you what you can't, write on a postcard or a piece of mail. You
Yeah.
still have full freedom, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I imagine a lot of stuff that was working 20 years ago is still working today, right?
It does. I mean, just like online, it goes through cycles where if you're in a competitive market and there's a lot of people, doing stuff in that market, things will, taper off, and you have to change your creative. But I mean, unlike, online, nowadays, if you're running Facebook ads or Google or YouTube, I mean, you got to change your creative pretty damn often to keep it
Yeah.
relevant. Direct
Yeah.
mail, I've had some campaigns that we didn't change the creative for 6 years,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
which is
incredible. It's pretty
amazing.
cool. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I guess a high barrier of entry, though. I guess it's a bit harder to get stuff out and printed and out than just creating a Facebook ad, right? So I get people get lazy and just look for the fastest way and then wonder why it doesn't work.
I mean, I guess that's all just a matter of perspective. That's like, I guess. I mean, I guess it's easier to go uh, for a walk than it is to drive down to the gym and use the equipment or buy equipment and have it at home. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't see it that way because I started off running magazine ads. When you run magazine ads, back then you had to pay somebody to typeset it. First you had to write it, then you had to pay somebody to typeset it. Then you had
Yeah.
to send in camera read a copy to the magazine. You had to send them thousands of dollars, and your ad didn't start for 90 days. So direct mail to me was like instant compared to
Instant.
that.
Wow, you really are from the old school.
Yeah. So
That's
I
a
mean,
bit.
there is a little bit of a barrier to entry, but man, I love that. I love that barrier because it keeps
That's
all
what I'm
the
talking about. Yeah,
yeah, it keeps all the riffraff out.
that's what I was trying to say. Really, is that like in the day, I think my wife calls my kids like the now generation. They want everything now, and they tend to get it now because it's so instant. And I think a lot of marketers and people in our space often want to be able to throw up an ad for an offer and then expect it to work out of the gate, whether it's selling leads or selling a course or whatever. And I think if we're able to take a step back and slow down a bit and go after something like this, then, rather than 100 people vying for the same thing, there's probably only going to be two or three. I think that's what your point was.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
like this third example that you gave here with the gold coins, that was a client who was at the time spending $5 million a month on Facebook, and he ran up against a wall. Like, that was as much as he couldn't spend anymore
wow.
profitably. And so he said, "Great, we've got that channel cranking. What can we do with direct mail?" And we
Yeah.
put together a direct mail program for him that, you know,
Yeah.
brought almost the same numbers that they were getting from the Facebook campaigns. They doubled.
Wow. That's incredible. And that story, I was reading through that because you had a Google Doc. I'm not sure whether people saw that in my emails that went out. But from memory, it was an offer where people were being incentivized to switch their 401k over to a different provider.
Correct.
And the hook was that they got $2,000 in gold coins or something like that, like
Yep.
solid gold coins if they did it. And it's interesting how I was thinking how much more of an attractive offer that was just because they were solid gold coins, right? They'd obviously thought about this.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
they had, but don't let it fool you though. They had markup. Like there was that was not a loss leader for them. Because
really.
they required people to switch over a certain amount. And when they were switching over that amount, they were actually investing their 401k into this new IRA that was backed by gold coins. And so
Yeah,
at first, when the guy showed me the offer, I said, boy, how much can you afford for a CPA? And this is important for later when we talk about CPA. I said, how
yeah.
much can you afford for a CPA? And, he told me, I don't remember what the number was, but he told me the number. And I said, well, how can you do that? Like, there can't be that much markup in gold coins. And then he went on to tell me about how with numismatic, he went through this whole thing where he's like, yeah, we've got about 30% to work with. So I said,
Wow,
okay.
wow, wow. That's a
Yeah.
great offer, and I think we'll get into this in a sec, right? But I imagine, like any time we try and make an offer or advertise, it
Yeah.
comes down to the strength of the offer and whether or not a campaign's going to work or not, right?
Yep.
So, like, if you guys stick around to the end, we have got a small, like, this hasn't been a well thought out offer or anything like that. So I just spoke about it with Luke about 15 minutes before the call, and we've got some kind of I think it's about 5 hours of training of Luke's postcard profits, uh, which he did. I think it went from 0 to 50K a week. And it's quite old audio training, but I imagine that it's still pretty damn good. And if you stick around to the end, we'll give you a link to that, and it's going to be very cheap for you. So I just wanted to let you know there is a small offer at the end. So stick around. All right. So Luke, I approached Luke a few weeks ago, and I kind of gave him a brief overview of what we're doing. But I wanted people on the call to talk about, what we don't do. All right. I'm going to challenge you that are listening on this call. What is it we don't do with our Sleeping Beauty AI database reactivation offer? Has anyone got any ideas about what we don't do? We don't charge up front with one buyer. Anything else? Matt saying change the first message. No, we don't do that. But I'm thinking about more when we're kind of transacting with clients. We don't send an email. We don't send to bought lists. We don't sell to them. Scott's got a good point. We don't we don't we don't ask them for any money up front. We don't ask them to sign any retainer contracts, so we owe them anything. Anything else? We don't ask them to pay some, Zuckerberg any ad costs or anything like that, or any ad spend. Anything else? We're not a marketing expense to these people, which is really important. And they're being bombarded with people that are trying to sell them leads and sell them results week in and week out. But with our offer, we approach our clients as partners, not as clients. Good job, James. Okay, so we're able to fly in under the radar and be able to make an offer to clients, which is almost impossible for them to say no to once they understand the offer. Okay. So who knows what our offer is to clients here at Flex HQ and for everyone on this webinar? And Luke, this is for you, right? So you get a better understanding of it. So we ask clients if they have any old leads. If they have, we ask them if they want us to turn them into sales using AI. If they say yes, we propose up to a 50% profit share on any sale we make from these old leads. And by the way, when I say we do this via AI, we use SMS and AI, if that makes sense. Luke. And what do you think we say if they go, no way, dude, that's just too much money, I'm not sharing? the revenue. What do you think? Has anyone got any ideas of what we say? You might have seen a little bit of this presentation before, but what do we say to the people? We say next as well. We also say 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. You can keep 100% of zero. All right. It's a very powerful offer because they like exactly they would just not say no. The penny drops and they ask, how does it work? And can we see a demo of how it works? Because everyone knows that ChatGPT and AI is coming. They all know they need it in their business. They just don't know how it works or how to implement it in. So they often ask to see a demo of this working. And then what we do is we set up a Zoom call to show them a demo. And we call it a coffee date over in Flex. And we prepare for the coffee date by copying and pasting a prompt template into OpenAI Playground. So within my free training, we give you guys a prompt template and you're able to copy and paste this into OpenAI and then play with it in front of the client. And it just blows them away and it works in any niche, right? They totally get it. Then after the coffee date, we close the clients. And again, has anyone got any ideas about what the close rate is for clients? What people on this call are closing clients at the moment, right? So I think it's for us, we haven't had one client say no to us. We've only said no to them because we didn't want to work with them. Jack's saying it's 100% for him. Matt's saying it's 90%. I reckon it's between 90 and 100%, depending on how simple you keep it and how well you explain the offer. If you start trying to over-explain it, it might scare people off, but it's just that simple. All right, so it's usually close to 100% at the moment. The stupid clients would be stupid to say no. All right, which is why, and this is where Luke comes in. I think it's really perfect for direct mail. All right. As far as what I've been selling, and I've been doing pay per lead and selling marketing services and leads for the best part of a decade. And this is by far the best and easiest offer I've ever seen. And it's also one of the easiest to deliver on as well. This is just us last week. It's on a 7.5K per month retainer for a 3-month trial with a decent sized company up in Scotland with a performance bonus of £25 per sale, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they buy 6,000 leads a week and they do TV and radio. Okay, so that's quite a chunky 3-month trial that we've just had. This is Anne-Marie. She came into our program about 2 weeks ago, Roya, and she doesn't mince a word. The light bulb has gone off. The fucking light bulb has gone off. This is another guy. He just put his hands on 1 million records for a claims company over here in the UK. Cataray landed the US government as a client with lead gen and AI. Rebecca runs a really great business out of the US, and her brother's a life insurance agent. She went to a conference, a life insurance conference, and she was explaining her offer to these life insurance guys who are so far behind the time, it's not funny. And she had these guys throwing their lists or their databases at her before the conference even started. This was just lobby talk. Cedric, who we did the webinar last week with, or 2 weeks ago, I think, is landed one of the biggest life insurance companies in Europe. He's been through 7 or 8 meetings with them and just agreed commercials. And he gets paid €2 for every conversation that he has with these people. They haven't even gone on a conversion basis because they're too big. But just one of the branches he's working with does 8,000 to 12,000 leads per month, and that he'll be sending SMSs to every one of them, right? And that's just one branch in the whole of Europe. It's huge. It is freaking huge. The CEO of the business, we're talking about $1 billion business here. And the demo he built got all the way up to the CEO of the business owner in France. And he is quite famous. He's in the news and all of that. And then Cedric was watching inside his high-level account and noticed the CEO trying to go through and break the bot So this is going all the way to the top. It's really powerful stuff. Rob Brown, he's about a month in now. He quit his job within 2 weeks. He messaged me. He was crying, leaving his work after, I don't know, 20 years working in the workforce. And then he ended up landing his employer as a client. And they paid him a retainer, which I think might have been more than his salary. And he's now way past 20K a month in profit in revenue after only a month. And it's pretty amazing what I've seen him do. But he really goes at it. Okay. He's a one-man band. As I said, it's just whale after whale after whale after whale. Which is why, Luke, I have you on the call today, because we're going to talk about what you think. And it's, I don't think we planned this too much, but now you kind of have a better understanding of what our offer is, what we do, and how it works. Maybe you might have a few questions, and then we can think about, talk about some of the ways that you could make this work for us, if that makes sense.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
My video is being blocked. Can you turn that on, or is that not available?
Yeah.
If it's not, don't worry about it.
Nat, can you do that for Luke if possible?
It's
Yep,
weird,
no
Haley.
problem.
It feels weird just being a still photo on the screen.
I think if you allow
Clicking
Luke to co-host, Dan, that should sort it out.
Okay. Luke Jaten.
Oh, I see.
Make
I see.
co-host.
It only allows
Yeah, there we go.
one at a time.
No, there we go. Should be good.
There we go. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for that explanation. That helps me a lot, because I think even in the last couple of conversations that we've had, I had a little bit more narrow view of what exactly it is that you do. But it's crazy because now, after explaining it and getting a really good feel for what you're doing, my first question is, what do you even need me for? You got 100% close rate, works for everyone. Where's the pain point? Is it in getting the coffee dates themselves? Is that the part that's the sticking point for folks?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's a very good question, right? Because for me, I think it's very, 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 very easy to get coffee dates. But for some reason, people are looking for different ways to do it. They're running Facebook ads. They're doing cold email automation. They're doing manual outreach. But there is a real lack of people getting as many coffee dates as I would like, because it's such a great offer. So yeah, we just need another way. We're looking for another way.
It's switching outbound to inbound, basically, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good, because that's what I specialize in.
Good.
I guess really what it boils down to is a couple of things. Number one, this offer is fantastic. Like that. So really presenting it in a way that has people coming to you is really the key thing here. It sounds a lot like some of the businesses that I've worked with over the last couple of years. I've worked with a lot of, and I think you and I spoke about this, Dan, but this will help kind of put it into context. I work with a lot of digital agencies who are fantastic at doing most of them are lead gen type agencies, and they're really good at doing lead gen for their clients, and they really suck at getting new clients because it's a different game they're playing. One is for those end user customers, and one is for somebody that's going to trust them to go get them for them. Right. So it's a different sales process.
Yeah.
Most of the way that, I'm thinking of two of my clients in specific, most of the way that their competitors would go look to get clients, which if you kind of put yourself in the agency position here, they would do those kinds of things that you're talking about. They would do cold outreach. They would do email. They would do, some of them were doing cold calling on the phone. All of those things dump you into the category for those businesses that you're contacting, dump you into this category of, like Dan Kennedy talks about, you're an annoying pest.
Nope. Exactly.
You can have the best offer in the world, but if they don't even want to listen to you because of the way that you contacted them, you got a problem.
Yep. 100%.
So what I did for both of those clients is what we're talking about doing here. I put together a direct mail campaign so that we got to the right people, the exact kind of clients that they wanted. We got to them in a way that they would listen or look at what they were even presenting. I mean, because I would imagine that there's probably people on this call who are doing cold outreach and having success. And some of them, it's just numbers, 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 numbers. So if there's something in that initial message that's working to get that first step in there. Well, imagine you've got that, but it's in front of somebody in a way that they're willing to look at it and take the time to just not be annoyed by the thing you sent them.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a couple of ways that you can do direct mail to do this. And so if I was starting out doing what you're doing, I would think about first who I'm going after. So the audience is a big key, just like it is in digital marketing. It certainly is in direct mail. You actually need to find a very specific group. Once you're having success in there, you can branch out and take on other groups, and you could have people from all different, clients from all different kinds of groups. But you need to have a very specific who,
Yes.
because that's how we're going to find the lists to mail to, right?
Well, I think the thing is that this works for, this is the thing that I sometimes struggle with as well, because this works for any niche. In fact, I've just put a post out the other day on Facebook, and I asked for $250 for anyone that could refer me to a decent sized ecom business, because there's a lot of ecom businesses out there that have lots of buyers but don't know how to follow up with them. And my inbox just pinged, and I've got a really big company coming on board. We just sent out an agreement. Any business that has a database of either buyers or old leads they've given up on and is spending on advertising, I think those are the key. They've got to have a decent sized database. They've got to have a decent offer, and they've got to be advertising. And I know that's not going to help you much.
No, it will. It will. I mean, here's the bottom line. It's funny that you bring that up, though. I've got students I've taught that are doing that exact same thing, but doing postcard follow-up to e-commerce buyers. It's
really
gangbusters.
Oh my God.
We might be able to do something together on that. But here's the thing. If you can be for anybody, that's great. But to get your first 6, 7, 8, 9 clients, you need to be for somebody specific, right?
Yeah.
So if you go get a real estate license, technically in the US, you can sell any kind of real estate. Well, does that mean you're going to go list commercial property? You're going to go list starter homes or luxury home? Like you got to pick a category to start in. So it doesn't mean you have to stay there, but like for a campaign to work, it's got to be niched down.
Okay, good.
Now, there is an exception to that. So one of the ways that you can do it in terms of list building, you've obviously, it sounds like you've worked with scrapers. You can go and use a little Chrome extension called Built With, and if you know that people in your category all use the same software, use Built With. You find that, and you generate a list, and then you reverse append the address, and you can mail those people. So if I was targeting coaches and creators or people that were selling big ticket info products, a lot of them, where do they deliver their products? Yeah. Kajabi, Thinkific. Yeah. So you can get a list of everybody that runs those, and then you can narrow that down and do mail to them. Now there's the who. We have to figure out the who. It's pretty simple. If you don't have any clients at this point in time, well, then you just have to kind of throw a dart at a board. Maybe you've heard a story of somebody doing, like there's enough of them out there, like because it fits anybody, throw a dart at a board and let's start there, right?
Yeah.
Now, there are some things about doing direct mail where the who, there's some criteria about the who that matter. Number one, if you're targeting bigger companies, the bigger the company, the harder it is to get through with direct mail. It can be done, But as you go up the scale in terms of revenue, like, if you've got a small mom and pop business or a business that has maybe 3 or 4 employees, we can get through with probably the least expensive piece of mail, a postcard, because it's going to get through to the person you need to talk to. Especially if you've got something like if you do the creative right, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if you're going after a company that does $5 to $10 million a year and has 35 or 40 employees, there's probably 2 or 3 gatekeepers that are going to keep the person that you need to get that piece of mail from getting it if it's just a postcard. So in those cases, like we talked about, you and I, when we talked last week, in those cases, I use a very memorable piece of mail, a 9x12 colored envelope with a letter. And sometimes I put a coffee gift card. Depends on what the CPA that we can work with is, but you need something that's going to get in front of the right person. And then when they open it, blow them away. If you are talking about a Fortune 100 or a Fortune 500 company, getting to the decision maker that needs to make that decision is going to be a more lengthy process. Doesn't mean it's not worth going after, but you're going to probably have to contact multiple people in that C-suite to get that done. So that's the who portion. The creative portion we just touched on a little bit. The creative is what sets you apart. This is the standing out versus sending a Facebook message or sending an email or sending a text even to somebody that's busy and is being bombarded with messages all day. The standing out is this direct mail already makes you stand out, but now you've also got to make sure you stand out from the direct mail. So what that means is if it's a postcard, meaning that it's completely open and they see exactly what it is, it cannot have artwork, it cannot look pretty, it cannot look like anything else they get in the mail. It needs to look more like a classified ad would look. Black writing on colored stock, because that's going to make them go, what is this?
So like a fluorescent type postcard type thing.
I wouldn't use I don't use fluorescent typically, only because for a long time it was used by people doing kind of cheap things that it gets associated with cheap. I prefer like the pastel. Remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember. You remember 4-part forms?
No.
Carbon copy 4-part forms. They would have 4 colors. So the top sheet would be white, and then pink, and then green, and then goldenrod. It's kind of a pastel color because it looks like something serious they're supposed to read. So if it's a postcard, you need to stand out that way. If it's a mail piece, because we're going to a little bit bigger company where we need to get through to the decision maker, it has to look important enough that the gatekeeper doesn't throw it away. So it cannot have any kind of writing on the outside unless you go absolutely crazy. I mean, I could show you some examples. Unless you go crazy with the writing, so it almost looks like a serial killer sent it. If you do that, then it'll get through, because this is, the gatekeeper's going, what the hell? Okay, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I better give this to him, right?
That's interesting.
If you've got a bigger budget, we've used FedExes. FedExes 100% of the time get opened, and they get to the decision maker because it looks like something important.
Interesting.
There's a whole bunch of, we could spend 2 hours on creative, but that's the idea. You need to direct mail is already making you stand out from your competitors who were just cold calling. But then on top of that, you have to make sure you get in front of the person that needs to make the decision. And then the third part is just the offer. And your offer is so strong, it's really just a matter of stating it in a way that gets to the point and makes them stand up and go, wait, there must be a catch here, or I need to find out some more information about this.
Well, that's maybe a good segue into this, right? So, I'm not one for kind of like, you must have an elevator pitch, and, like, I guess a lot of Dan Kennedy stuff can be quite structured, I guess, with stuff like this. But for me, I've always, and this just kind of worked for me when someone asked for that referral to the e-com business, right? And the guy would introduce me, but he wanted to know what my pitch was, right? And I went, okay, I'll just throw this together. And I said, we take their unconverted leads and buyers, and we use ChatGPT Sales Android to turn them into sales on a performance basis with SMS. This drastically increases sales and decreases their overheads because Luke, this is one thing that the penny drops for the business owners when they see this is going to drastically reduce their overheads rather than just make more sales. That's when we really get them, right? We only get paid when you get paid with no
Do you know that?
cost.
Do you know that? Do you know this number? And this might help you with that. And some of these people don't realize it, even the business owners. It costs 5 times as much to get a new customer as it does to reactivate an old customer. 5 times. That's on average. And some businesses way more than that.
Yeah, that's right. People don't even know it. They're just chasing the cold leads all the time.
Yeah.
And then we say, we can build you a demo and show you how this would work if you want, right? And I just sent that to them and people just get it straight away. So if you are watching this and you do need some sort of like elevator pitch, then take a screenshot of this because it might just help you when you get in a bit of a pickle if someone does ask what your pitch is, if you need to refer or whatever. Okay. So yeah. How would you do this offer, right? Because I'll show you. Like I offered someone $250 for a referral, right? And I know you've done some stuff and you spoke about it briefly on the call, and maybe this is kind of segueing into what you said to me previously. Is that you've actually incentivized people to turn up to a call before, and if they don't enjoy it or they don't get value from it, then you're willing to pay them $100 or something. Like, is my mind playing tricks on me? Is that actually something you'd think about doing here?
I've used that for a client. So usually when I'm working with somebody new, they all have a little different way of doing things. And some of them, some of my agency clients are horrible at presenting their offer. They'll just say, this is how much we charge up front, and here's what it is per month. And, there's no guarantee, and we'll do, like it's horrible. Like when you hear it out loud, it's an absolute horrible offer. And then they're asking me to help them find clients. And I'm thinking, well, you've got other problems and we have to figure that out. And so I'm bringing that up because one of the clients I worked with, actually, I got the idea working with them, and then I've used it now 2 or 3 times, is the one that you're talking about, where if they were not willing to make some kind of offer to get somebody on the phone, then we needed something to make it feel like, well, we're not going to waste your time. And so the way that I structured it was, get on the call with us. You've got a great enough offer. It'd be easy to be able to just, state a big portion of what it is that you want to talk about on the phone anyway. And then once you get to that point, it's listen. And if you feel like I've wasted your time, when we get off the phone, I'll Venmo you or Zelly. I don't know what instant apps you guys use in the UK, but like, I'll send you $150 when we get off the phone if I wasted your time. You tell me.
Yeah. Is it cool if we I mean, I don't know whether this is what your kind of plan was and what else you've got planned, but I'd love to do a little bit of like offer work with you around this and come up with some angles or something. Would that be something you'd like to do?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Like just what you were talking about there. So I don't know. Should we freestyle for a bit and see what we kind of come up with?
Yeah, I'm going to pull up. I don't need the screen or anything, but I'm going to pull up a couple of.
And maybe people listening can come up with something that they might have an idea with as well, an idea about. So the first one is I mean, how do you structure it? Is there a little structure that you go through or a little methodology you go through in order to come up with your offer?
I would love to say that there's a specific way that I do it, but I'm usually looking for a headline that is going to stop them in their tracks, but not be something. I want it to be curiosity driven, unless I have just a super straightforward. Your offer is really straightforward, but it's also takes a few lines to explain.
Yes.
So I'm looking up a couple of examples of some other ones that I have. Give me 1 second here. So one of the ones that we used for, this was a postcard that, so here's the other thing. You don't want to actually put your offer on the mail piece that is your offer that you're going to make them later on the call. You want a separate offer that is like, so let's find out whether or not we can work together kind of offer, right? And the only reason that I use that, I'll give you $150 for wasting your time with a couple of those clients is because they didn't have anything else I could talk about. Right. I have another, I've done ones for people like one agency that was doing, they were doing lead generation for flooring contractors. And they had a super strong offer that was similar, not like yours, but similar in the sense that they were willing to do it no money out of pocket. And so the headline that we used was double your money guaranteed, make at least double your net profit on every job or pay nothing. Well, that's like, wait, what? None of the competitors were saying anything like that.
Make at least double your, what was it?
Double your money guaranteed. Now, you're not going to want to say something like that unless it's a very specific type of business. You don't know what their old leads are like. I mean, part of what you're doing with your offer is it's no obligation for them, but it's also no obligation for you. And something like this puts you in some sort of an obligatory state.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing them out for ideas. I'm not saying that we can use that.
So am I, really. I mean,
the call to action on that card was fantastic, though, because after we said all that, the last couple of lines were, interested, question mark, curious, question mark. Let's start with a 5-minute conversation to see if working together would be a good fit. That was the call to action. Now, if you're going to do that, or if you guys are, I don't know, when you're working with to get clients, not with their end customers, but when you're working to get clients, are you doing phone call, doing text? Do you do it like, how do you communicate?
Zoom call and a demo. So as I was saying on the presentation before, we jump on and we demo inside the OpenAI playground, and we remove all of the logos and everything and make it look like it's our individual bot that we prepared for them. So so we kind of present it as, I stayed up all night. I knew we only had 24 hours to get this done. I stayed up all night and I built this bot specifically for your business type thing. And that usually just makes them feel special and gets them excited about working with us as well, because we showed that we've kind of built their custom bot for them, which they don't know is actually you can do it in 5 minutes type thing.
Well, when you've got people that are doing cold outreach, what is the typical what's the typical opening line like on Messenger or like what?
Well, I'm just thinking what I would say, like, let's say you were a HVAC business owner, right? And you were
I've worked with those.
And you're in a HVAC group, right? And on Facebook, and I joined that group and I saw hundreds of HVAC people, and they're all commenting about getting more leads or something. I would say something like, "Hey Scott, I see you looking for more leads. I was wondering if you had any old leads, you've thrown in the bin, you have forgotten about, question mark." And usually they just kind of come back and say, "Well, yeah, well, of course we have, right?" And then I would say, well, it's probably easier. Well, kind of, it goes against the norm, but smart HVAC owners, well, kind of what you said, it's 5 times easier to get more from what you've already got rather than go after the new stuff, right?
Right. So this works in a conversation once they're kind of hooked, and I see how you can hook them from that conversation. I'm thinking even more cold than being in a group. I would lead with something to this effect, or I would play with the wording because, usually it takes me a few minutes to come up with something really dynamite, but I would say something to the effect of, how much are you making from your dead leads right now?
Yep. How much?
Because dead leads is a trigger. Like, wait a minute, I have to, because their salespeople all call them dead.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
CFOs calling them old or unworked. The salespeople are calling them dead, right?
Yep. Yep. They also call them no contact over here in the UK.
Okay.
How
How
much are you
much are you making
making
from your no contact leads?
from your no contact data, from your
Yeah.
no contact data right
Right.
now?
If that's the headline, and then
Yep.
underneath you said something to the effect of um, I'm trying to think of like what I can say that is a not necessarily a claim, but is a enticing like
Yeah.
um, how'd you like to get those worked for free?
Yep. Something like that.
Something
So
like that, where it's like a couple of questions leading to the the conversation line that I gave you earlier.
you like us to turn them, us to turn them into sales on a chat with. I think we need to use ChatGPT in there or AI with
Yeah,
the
so that they
sales.
understand that it's not salespeople reaching out, right?
Yeah, because they also know they need it. Would you like us to turn into sales with ChatGPT on a performance basis?
You also need to have, I shouldn't say need, it's always good on a cold piece of mail like this is you want to have the basic energy, especially for B2B, to be what they call with or without you energy.
Right. Explain
We
more.
don't need you. We don't need you. We're doing this for people like you. But if it's not you, there's 10 more after you, right? It has
Yes.
to,
So,
you don't say that, but it has to have that energy. It has to have that feeling. The feeling is, and one of the ways that we use that in like when I was doing, like if I send a full letter instead of a postcard where I can actually fit more on that, I usually let them know I'm mailing this to all the HVAC people in Dallas. We're only working with 2,
yeah. Okay.
which is like, oh shit, I better get on this.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. Actually, I've got a direct mail piece that we did at least 7 figures with. I just want to see if I can bring it up, but keep
Okay.
talking because I'm going to bring it
Yeah.
up because it might help.
So again, if we're writing a postcard, the copy is a lot more important than if we're writing a letter. I've got several examples of letters that I use for this kind of thing, and it's basically a matter of kind of swapping out the offer and the call to action. But the general basis for it is all kind of the same, right? Because you're in a postcard, it's like a classified ad. It's like a Google ad, right? It's like,
Yeah,
AdWords, which is
this
where
is
I
the one.
learned how to work. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
This is
Let's,
the one that worked so well for us. People in the UK might remember the PPI offer, right? We sent this out to every company in the UK, and we did a ton of business from it. But I could do a loss leader on this. If I
mhm.
gave you 150 free PPI leads in the next 7 days, would you be interested? That worked super well.
Yeah.
So that letter worked really well. And I had the
Well,
first.
you could actually even use the opening for like if you're going to write a letter, you could use the opening that is I don't know if I shared this one with you. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Uh, so this was a letter. All that was in it was a 9 by 12 envelope with
Yeah.
a single-sided, actually two-sided single sheet of paper in there, and we put a Dunkin' Donuts gift card, $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card in the envelope. So this was not a cheap mailing. It's like
Yeah.
$8, $9 for each one that we mailed. But you mail 100 of them, you're gonna get your phone's gonna ring off the hook. So it
Yes.
basically just said, "Hey there, I put a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card in this envelope. Have a coffee or a donut on us." My team hates cold calling as much as you hate getting cold calls. We sent you this gift card as a bribe to get you to call us instead. But why would you want to call us, right? And so then, but why would you want to call us, right? And then you'd go right into the step, here's what we do. Boom, 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 boom. Let's get on the phone.
Yeah. What was the response rate from something like that? Any idea?
Depends on the list it's going to.
Yeah.
But I've used a version of that letter with very, very great results. And I've had in some categories that we mailed into, it was, it did okay, but it wasn't great. The best ones were ones where because ultimately what they were selling is leads, and the companies that were really desperate for leads and had lots of small, companies that were doing $300,000-$400,000 a year in revenue, it does phenomenal in those groups.
Not always the best clients though.
Not always, not always.
Yeah. Mm.
And for this offer, for doing, lead gen, it was great for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's a client they wanted. We really want, if I was to kind of look for the perfect client, I would say they had a 10,000. It depends on the offer, right? Because you might have
Oh, it totally does.
Someone doing heavy machinery that has 200 people on their database that they've never followed up with, and the average sale is $150,000 with a $30,000 margin. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You wouldn't use a sales Android on that. You would get their database and like send some SMSs out to it and just do it manually and pick up the check. You know what I mean?
Well, and then also, I know it sounds silly and it's like, it's not that important, but it actually is. It's important to kind of know your audience too. This type of offer or letter was going to people that were in the construction field here, and Dunkin' Donuts is their thing. We went after businesses that were more, what I call uptight offices, and we sent them Starbucks cards because they wouldn't dare go to Dunkin' Donuts. They go to Starbucks. Yeah. Right. So we made that fit who we're sending it to.
Yeah.
And the language was a little different too.
Yeah, definitely. I can see why.
And again, so if I'm sending a postcard, which in some markets you can totally get away with a postcard, which is cheap. They're 60 cents to mail, not $9, right?
Yeah.
In the markets where you can use a postcard, it's just, you've got to be able to it's all about the message. There's no real bribe there. It's got to hit them between the eyes.
Headline. Yeah.
Not just the headline, but actually what you're asking them, what you're saying you can do needs to be boiled down to just, 2-3 bullets, and then the call. So headline, 2 or 3 bullets, 3 bullets, and a call to action.
Yeah. Yeah. So, with this one back up the top here, you might have like a headline here with a sub headline underneath it, and then one, 2, 3, 4 bullet points.
Yep. And then the call to action is let's get on the phone. Yeah.
And then a CTA here. So if you imagine what this whole thing looks like here, that's pretty much the front page of your postcard, right?
Yeah.
They
and I don't put anything on the other side. I only use one side of the postcard.
Wow. And that's it.
Correct.
So really for the postcard, and I think, the offer is that strong, maybe it would work, but I guess it depends on the size of business that you want to work with, right? And for me, if I had my perfect, in my perfect world, I'd probably have a 10,000 plus database.
Yeah.
I'd want to be spending 20K plus per month on ads, on advertising.
So the database thing, the number of customers, it's really difficult to get. It's not impossible, I would imagine, but it's very difficult to get that data on a list. But you can infer that data based on ad spend and length of time in business. And so using Built With, I could build a database like that. No, like a mailing list like that, no problem. Also, if I'm using one of the list sources that I use to get corporate lists, NAICS or List Giant, there's 2 or 3 of them that I use. They'll let me do all that criteria. So I can say, hey, listen, they need to be doing, 2 million to 10 million a year turnover. They need to have, and it'll give you all these parameters that you can dial it down. Now, obviously, the more, those are called selects. When you add selects to it, it makes the list smaller, but it makes it tighter and more what you want.
Yeah, I'd probably look 5 million plus turnover, 10K data. You can't tell a database, right? But
No, you
probably
can guess it. You can guess it based on other things.
spending on ads or kind of marketing.
Hmm.
5K turnover, length of time, kind of 5 years plus. Um, and you know all of these big, you know,
Hmm.
you could do it for the 401k client that's after a lot of consumers. This would be, perfect for that, for those type of guys, right? Because they've probably got 500,000 people on their database that they've made this offer to that haven't converted, right? So those kind of guys would be a dream, but they've probably got all of that sorted in-house. It's
Have
more,
you have you done any of the e-commerce stuff yet, or was that a new client that you were talking about earlier?
I literally put the post out about 6 days ago, and I had the fee date with him last Friday, and I sent the contract out on Friday. But
Be
he has a
interesting to It'd be interesting to see how that does with e-commerce with the AI and text and just conversion rate numbers. I mean,
going to
obviously.
crush it. It's going to absolutely crush it. We had a 1% conversion rate. He's paying $50 a sale on a $130 offer, I think. Trying to get it at $50. So 1% would be 50K in our pocket. It's what 1% conversion on existing buyers. Like I can't see how it would be any less than that.
Yeah,
So
with postcards, a bad mailing on existing buyers, you're going to do, well, it depends. We don't usually measure it that way. I'd have to back out the numbers, but usually somewhere between 5 and 6 times ROI or what it costs
five
to
to
put the
six times,
postcards in the.
5 to 6 times ROI with postcards.
Yeah, for e-commerce stuff. That's like I'm just talking about like for an
Yeah.
e-commerce. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of we built this thing mainly because a lot of our clients have been debt consolidation. They've been life insurance, annuities,
Hmm.
IULs, double glazing, HVAC, roofing. All of these guys that will absolutely crush with. But I think we've built a beast here that could work in e-commerce as well. But it's early days.
Well, let me just say this. This doesn't help anybody on the calls necessarily. This is just you and me, but I can tell you
Yeah,
that I did a workshop recently where I had mentioned a little bit about the technology that you're using
yeah,
and how I would like to figure out a way to work because the way I see it is you're probably going to do better than 1% with e-commerce, right? I just don't see how that could not work. Although there are people who are not turned on by getting a text from a company they bought something for. Some not. But here's what I do know. Postcards going to a buyer's list, like a back-end buyer's list for e-commerce, are really well received, especially if there's something on there that requires a response. And if the response was to text right into the AI, and the AI closes more sales than would have happened if
yeah,
they were like, oh, sending them to the website.
yeah.
I'm
You just
thinking that combo together, because we can probably get a 10 to 12% responders to the postcards.
yeah, yeah. That's incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
to give you an idea, we call it, and we're definitely going off topic here, but it's just too
Sorry.
exciting not to talk about it. So we call it our Prince Charming, and people on the call, we call it this Prince Charming SMS. And can anyone remember what this looks like off the bat? What does our Prince Charming SMS look like? And what do you think for bonus points? Someone can write it to me for someone that's buying supplements again for their second order after they've already bought. Any ideas? Can someone remember what it
We
says?
got a double hand raiser in the chat here.
No. All right. So I'll write it out. Okay, here we go. So it goes like this, Luke, and this is why we fly under the radar and why it works so goddamn well. Okay, so it's hi, sorry, hi, Luke, you're the consumer. It's Sarah here from XYZ supplements.
Yep.
Is this the same Luke that ordered some protein? Because we can pull that from their CRM,
Yeah.
right? To see
See,
what
and
they're,
this is so much. This is 1,000 times better than every SMS I get from these companies
yeah,
that don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah. Is this the same Luke that ordered some protein from us in June? We can pull the product and the
Yep.
date that it was ordered, right? Straight from Shopify. They come back and they say, oh, yes, it is. And then we say, thank goodness. I had it stuck to, I had a post-it note, and this can be changed, right? I had a post-it note stuck to my computer to give you a call, but I didn't want to disturb. I didn't want to disturb. Do you want to buy any more? Do you want to buy any more? And of course, they're going to want to buy more if it was a good product, right? So they just say yes. And then AI takes over and goes back and forth with them and sends a link to the product that they want. You know, we can program that all into the AI. But guess what percentage response rates this SMS gets, Luke?
Oh, huge. Because yeah, I mean, they think they're talking to a person here at this point.
30% on average. 30% on average. All right. The numbers are mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. They really are.
30% conversion? Not
No,
30%.
on average, you get back, say yes, it is, or no, it isn't.
Okay.
30% get back on this. Okay. And then we're looking at probably, depending on the age of the data, I'd say.
And the quality and experience of the first purchase.
Yeah, exactly. So out of 1,000 SMSs, you'll get 300 responses.
Right.
And you'll get, if they're booking an appointment, you probably get about, I think it's about a 10%, you probably get about 100 appointments.
Okay.
Is that right? 10%. It depends on the data. If it's fresh data, you'd roughly get a 10% appointment booking rate. Okay.
Gotcha.
But that's for lead gen. If it's for e-com, then I would bet you would get 100 orders as well. Out of 1,000 SMS is a 10% conversion rate. So when we see all these businesses that have huge databases of buyers that haven't even sent an SMS to, the key is this, you know, this is where the magic lies in that first SMS.
Well, and that is the magic, because I can tell you there are probably 3 e-commerce companies that I buy from regularly, and all 3 of them send SMS. And none of them do it well. Basically, they're just sending a discount code because it's a holiday.
Yeah.
It's pay 15% off because it's President's Day. And if I'm in that mode where I need to buy something, I just wait for them to send me a coupon. Like I don't even go to their website anymore until they send that. Well, they just trained me to be a horrible customer.
Exactly. This is building. I mean, there's going to be some what do you call it, regulation, I think, that comes in that has to say it's AI. But for now, these people, 99% of people are going to think this is Sarah from XYZ Supplements.
Right.
And you should see the conversations. They're some of the best. They're better than any salesperson could do. They're just incredible. They're really, really good stuff.
Love it.
Back and forth. Yeah. So.
So let me cover 2 other things really quick, because people are probably thinking about it, and I touched on it, but I want to make sure that we don't just skip over this. And that is at the very beginning of the very first slide that you put on here said no ad spend, and I was like, well, there's ad spend with direct mail. You're just giving it to an ad platform. You're giving it mostly to the postal service and a little bit to the printing. So there is ad spend. So for example, if you're going to mail postcards and you're going to mail them inside the US, I don't have too many. Actually, I don't have any current vendors that I could recommend outside the US, but I would imagine that you've got lots and lots of people mailing in the US. If you're going to use postcards, there's a company called clicktomail.com. I don't have any association with them. They're really, really great pricing. And they also are one of the only online print and mail places that do the pastel colored postcards. And they did that because I worked with them years ago, and they found that those worked really, really great because I made them get it. Lots of
Yeah.
the other ones only have like white glossy, and it's hard to stand out with that stuff. So click and then the number 2 mail.com. That's a great resource for that. If you're going to mail 1,000, pretty much everything is kind of like CPM online. It's kind of, we always talk about thousands. So
Yeah.
to mail 1,000 postcards, 600 and something bucks, right? So
Yeah.
60 cents a piece.
Yeah.
If you're going to do a more elaborate mail piece, I would recommend most people start off mailing 100 at a time because the response is a lot higher and also the cost is higher. So if you're going to mail those, you can put together a package that, even if you included a $5 gift card, that's going to be maybe $8 in the mailed, and you can send 100 of those at a time. And
Yeah.
most people, you send your first 100, you've got a lot of business to follow up on. So
Even from 100.
yeah, because the postcards, it's a lot easier to throw that away. So yes, it's cheaper, but you got to mail more of them to get the same kind of response, right? So
Yeah.
CPA, the cost per sale is going to be damn near the same. It's
Yeah.
just you're making a
Less
bigger
work.
impression with the other piece.
Yeah. And can I ask, the layout, because we'll talk about, there was an offer I mentioned at the start of this webinar, but um, in here you've said you're going to give, well, basically, let me rewind. You've got your 5-hour postcard profits training on how you went from 0 to 50K a week with low budget postcard projects. Would you be in that reporting series? Do you go into kind of the layout of the postcard and
Oh yeah. Oh
coming
yeah.
up with, yeah, and what that all looks like, and how would people get an understanding of what the actual physical postcard looks like and how they're laid out?
I mean, I can get you and I will have to figure that out in terms of like visual.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe we can just, yeah, if you just fire some visuals over of some layouts, then that'd be
yeah,
really good.
yeah, I could do that.
All right, cool.
I went through a whole bunch of them in that most recent workshop that I did, but let me see if I can. Yeah, I think I can pull that out. That wouldn't be a big deal.
Perfect. All
Yeah,
right,
because
cool.
it's a lot better if you can actually see something. It's in audio, it's described, and you have then you create a picture in your own mind. But if you see it, you might go, "Oh, not exactly what I thought." Great.
Yeah, 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 cool. All right. So what we're doing, and Luke, is there anything else you kind of you want to talk about? We'll get into the Q&A in a sec.
Not unless you have questions. I mean,
No.
I love answering questions.
All right, we'll go into questions in a sec, but we're putting together, it's done with you training. It's specifically for uh, people that are looking to get coffee dates for this AI offer, the database reactivation stuff. We've sold 2 spots already. I think Spot and Anthony are probably on this call, so they're joining us. It starts on Wednesday. It's $3,997. Okay, but if you don't want to pay for the live calls, and then this will be happening over the next 4 to 6 weeks, then Luke's finally given us his 5-hour postcard profits training on how he went from 0 to 50K per week with low budget postcard projects. Basically what we've been talking about on this call. It's a 5-hour audio course, and it's a pay what you want offer. Okay, so it's, but with a minimum $100. Okay, and we look at every payment that comes in. If you do pay for us and donate a bit more, then I'll be making sure that we get you some juicy bonuses as well. Okay, so if you've got any questions about, hopefully I've explained it properly, but if you've got any questions about that, then please just ask us in the chat box. But there's the link for that. Okay. All right. So
That sounded a bit like coercion. Pay what
yeah,
you want, but if you pay more, I'll give you more stuff.
it is. I'm terrible. I do all of my selling via like Google Docs and stuff like that. I'm not very good, kind of just like
Yeah,
spilling it out over a webinar. It makes me very uncomfortable. So
gotcha.
I just tend to not do it. Um, but Luke, Scott's asking if you used to own an ecom company. Luke, I don't know.
I've owned a couple of supplement companies. Yeah.
Really interesting. Interesting. You've got a fan here. All, all right.
Was that Scott? Is that Scott Kretsch?
Yes.
Yes, I know Scott.
Oh, nice. All right. JD, look, could a couple of questions if we send one-page letter or postcard to local business owners. What examples of A/B tests and how do we monitor?
So the question is, what would you send?
What are
And then how would
examples
you
of
track it?
Yeah, the A/B testing. Like, how would you A/B test a postcard?
I would use
And how
two
would you
different
monitor
phone. I would use two different phone numbers.
two phone numbers and track the responses?
Yeah, that's pretty simple.
Yep. Do we have the phone number linked to book as a CTA?
I mean, if you're using a phone number for a CTA, then you just use, Google numbers and you point different ones so that like you can track, they all come to the same line, but now you can track how many got, how many calls each line got.
Definitely. Okay. Do we put a website landing page to show some credibility? And
You
not give the
can.
offer?
I prefer not to. I prefer to actually have them ask me for that when they call, because
Yep.
if I add that in, what am I doing? I'm making giving them something else to do. They can, put it off. They can go down a rabbit hole. They can go online and make a decision. I'd rather not put that there. I'll give that to them once they call me.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. If we don't have the owner's name, how do we address them so it's personalized?
So that's a really good question. I often run into something where I don't have the ability to do that. If I'm mailing from two of the list sources that I have, I do get their names. So it's very easy.
Yeah.
If I don't have their names, then, well, I got to have a name or I can't even label it. So
Yeah.
if you don't have the name, you need to get it somehow. There are append services online where you can grab that stuff. 3 cents a record, they'll add, names, emails, phones to it.
In this day and age, with all the scraping technology out there, I'm sure you can.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Byron's saying, how long is that offer open for? So, anyone that wants to donate at any time through that link, will get Luke's course, okay, and the recordings for our Done With You offer, specifically for their AI stuff. Until we package this up, and then Luke's course and the Done With You stuff is going to be packaged and sold for, I would say, a couple of grand, because it's going to be that valuable, right? So if you want to jump the queue and get it early, then I would pay with this link. Otherwise, you're going to be paying a lot more once it's been packaged up. Okay. James Thompson, question: what do you think about lumpy mail as an option instead of a letter to B2B
Love
5
it.
million plus
Love it.
businesses?
It's fantastic. It's just the biggest reason that people don't do lumpy mail is depends what you're sending. It can be cost, but like with the example that I gave with the gift card, most of the grabbers you can use for lumpy mail are going to be less expensive than that. But lumpy mail is always going to be better. The cost is a consideration, and then also if you were putting the mail pieces together yourself, there are companies that will do it for you. You're going to pay for
Yeah.
it. But if you're
Yeah.
doing it yourself, they're a bit of a pain in the ass. And so I've used it. I've used lumpy mail. In fact, I'm working on a lumpy mail campaign right now that uses real shredded currency
Really?
as
What
the
it,
grabber. Like you're just throwing money away. You're tearing up your money. Like it'll be, yeah.
Interesting. So when you say lumpy mail, like, give us like your top
Anything that's
three.
it's anything that's not flat. So over the years, I've had students that I've worked with that have sent stuff that I would never dare to send. One of them got an idea from listening to an old Dan Kennedy recording, and he did it. He basically sent to C-suite. I don't remember if he was targeting CFOs or CEOs, but he sent a single or. I mean, and it's
And
like a
or
regular life-size oar from a rowboat and saying, look, are you up the creek? Without a paddle, I got the other one. That got like an 80% response. But that's not cheap to send, and it's a big, thing. So if you've got people that are going after, like Chet Holmes used to talk about with your Dream 100, by all means, go crazy.
While it's how much you want it, right? I mean, some of these clients are worth a lot of money. So, I mean, how much do you want it? What's your CPA? How much you're willing to pay? I guess that comes with having some confidence about what you do as well, right? Like you kind of have to get to a stage where you're so confident in your offer that you can afford to spend $500 to get an oar in front of the CEO, right? But of course, it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if I've got 25 clients that that I've kind of targeted in on, and any one of them could be worth $50,000 a month, I'll pay a
Yeah,
$15,000 CPA,
exactly.
you
Exactly.
know.
Um, Raphael's saying he loves this. Sorry, I got in late because the issue's mine, but where did you go over where we get the addresses from, or do we just grab them one by one from the web? There's plenty, Dimitri, there's plenty of scraping tools out there where you can do this, saying that Luke did have a few
Yeah,
different.
there's two. I'll give you two that I like to use. The scrapers are fantastic when you can't get the lists any other way, but I'll tell you that some of the list brokers, you have to pay for them, but they're not super expensive. They're anywhere from 8 to 12 cents a record. But the reason that I like going through a list broker is they use the same scrapers that you could go use, but then they have humans go in and clean them and make sure that they're all accurate, they're all up to date. Then they run what's called an NCOA against the post office to make sure that the address is deliverable. They do a bunch of stuff to make the data better. That's why I use them. If you're comfortable with getting, 10, 15% of what you mail back because you just scraped it and maybe they've got old information there, then that's fine. But the two that I like to use are List Giant. I believe it's just listgiant.com.
Yeah.
They specialize in B2B, and then NAICS.com. Can't remember what that stands for, but it's some professional association. And I've used them for years for B2B lists.
Okay, cool. Did you grab those, Dimitri? Good stuff. Scott, I'm in direct mail space for years. I'm not sure what the offer is with database reacts. So Scott, you've got to go through our 5-day challenge. Yeah, I think check out my 5-day challenge, dude. It explains it all there. You've got to understand the offer in order to do this. All right, Trevor, used to send cheap silver platters in a fake overnight envelope with copy related to I'm giving you everything on a silver platter.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Anything that gets sent in a poster tube, those get open. Again, these are those part of what's really great. So lumpy mail works with any kind of audience, but it really works for getting something from a gatekeeper to a decision maker because the gatekeeper is afraid to throw away something that looks like it was sent to them.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, just got to get creative.
Yep.
All right, cool. So Trevor's and a few guys are talking about different lumpy mail places. So it looks like there's 3dmailresults.com.
Yeah. They're a good one. They've been around for a long time. Very reliable.
Okay. Markmedia.io create. What about VideoBox? Don't know, mate.
Video boxes, to me, again, they're going to stand out. They're harder to do because if you're spending the money to send to this little video box, you better have a damn good video. So now you've got that to think about. So there's nothing wrong with them. They're great. It's another level of complexity that I'd rather skip.
Yeah. It's kind of like me, right? Like I don't like selling in person, kind of like this, I totally fluffed that call to action at the end there.
No, you did. It was great.
It's the same that goes with it's the same for when it goes with creating a video letter or something to able to convert, like there's just so much time and effort that needs to go into this, whereas just writing a good headline and a strong offer and the power of the written word is much easier.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I've sent cookies.
Yeah, I've done that too.
And I did that in a situation where, and you might run into this. I had a client whose person we were trying to get a hold of is not the person giving him money. The person that we're getting a hold of is the one that's going to give referrals. Yeah. And so the referral person, you have to sell differently. So we sent them cookies and then talked about how we're going to solve their problem. So it's a little bit different angle.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. CTO on the postcard, is it a phone number preferred? Yeah. Yeah, it is, I think, right? Putting a phone number in.
Well, that all depends on who you are and what you're like, what you're comfortable with. It is going to be the one that's going to give you the best leads. In the old days, when I say old days, I mean even as recent as maybe 5 years ago, I would still have said phone number is going to get you a higher response.
Yes.
Today it's probably closer to equal with a URL or a text me.
Interesting. Because Luke, this is, I was talking about that ecom campaign. They
Yeah,
actually they're not online. They actually drive all of their traffic and sales into a call center via TV and radio ads. And
yep,
they have a call to action, a phone in call to action. And
yep.
they convert about 40% of the people that call in because they already know the price and the objections have
Sure,
all been
sure.
handled in the ads, right? We said to them, what happens if you SMS in? You put an SMS call to action rather than a phone call to action? I wonder what the difference is going to be in conversion rates and how much it's going to change your business and reduce the amount of people on the phones. And they were like, oh my God, this is a game changer. But it sounds so simple, right? It sounds so simple.
But there is a difference. If you're asking somebody, so you're running TV and radio ads and you want
Yeah.
them to buy something and you're explaining what they're buying and you're giving the price. When I just want to get there as quick as I can. So like if I'm watching television or listening to the radio, I'm going to call. I want to call.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
it's
is a
true. It's
little
totally true.
different in the sense that we want some, like when somebody gets a piece of mail from us, their automatic next thing isn't great. How do we do business together? Not
No,
usually.
no.
It's I want to dip my toe in and like I want to find out more without feeling like I'm going to get into a sales call.
Yeah.
That's usually the attitude that you have to meet them with. And so
Yeah.
that's why the text works really good.
Yeah.
I prefer to take a phone call because I do feel comfortable talking on the phone, selling on the
Yeah.
phone. I
Yeah.
also, if I'm going to put a phone number on there, I almost always, now with this offer, I wouldn't, but with most offers, I would have it, there'd be a recorded message in between. So they call a toll-free recorded message. Guess what? That means that's just like clicking a website in their mind in the sense that they're not committed. I can
Yeah.
find something out. And at the end
Yeah.
of it, the call to action is press one. And when they press one, they get to a live person. For
Yeah.
this offer, I wouldn't do that. You don't need that.
No, no. And remember that we could even have the kind of call to action of like, or the offer is we can build your bot for you for free or
Mm-hmm.
something like that because they don't know, like it takes 3 minutes to build the bot in or it's just a prompt, right? So there's lots
Well,
of stuff you can
I
do.
don't know. Like if you said it only takes 3 minutes, then I might even go a step further on the ones where I was mailing a lumpy mail or something like that, because I know I'm not going to do a giant mailing. Maybe I'm starting off with 100 pieces. If I'm mailing 100 pieces and you're saying it only takes me 3 minutes to build the bot, I'd build a bot for every single one of them and then put a QR code that links right to the bot so that they can just go and,
Yeah.
unless it requires explanation
Yeah. No,
before
it
they even
doesn't.
look at it.
If it's the same niche, it's the same bot for everyone.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool stuff you can do. Question,
Again,
would
QR codes I would have never ever recommended before 2020. COVID
mm,
changed everything in terms of QR codes.
people
Before
use
that, people used to joke and that was the herpes of the internet. Nobody wanted QR codes. Don't put that on me. But now with after the pandemic and we had, restaurants using them for menus and everything, like people are now
Yeah.
conditioned to QR codes are great.
Yeah. If you're in the QR code industry, you must have been loving COVID. It's
Yeah, totally changed their business.
yeah. Question, could you use an invite to a webinar as a CTO or is the offer too long-winded? I mean, you could, but like it's too, I prefer to get cash in the bank faster. I don't know about you, Luke.
Yeah, not only that, it seems like it would be too it's not individualized. I'd want to make it individualized for the person. And if it's a webinar, it's like, yeah, we're great for everybody.
Yeah. Not that strong. Not
Right.
that strong call to action. They made it so easy when they incorporated the QR code reader with our cameras. Yeah, that's the latest thing.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, cool. Is there any other questions? We've been going an hour and a half. It's been awesome. I mean, we got a bit sidetracked there.
That's
So
okay.
I'm quite
I
pumped
was
about
happy
it.
with the sidetrack.
Yeah, it's cool. We should catch up afterwards. All right. If there's any other questions, otherwise we might call it a day. And Scott and Anthony, if you're on this call, I'm reaching out to you separately, and we're going to have the Zoom call on Wednesday and get started with our Done With You offer with Luke, which I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be fun.
All right. Thank you so much, Luke.
Thanks
It's
for
been
having
awesome.
me.
Catch you later. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've understood what Luke can help with and the offer that we are selling to clients, which is really the offer to end all offers, in my opinion. I'm very biased, obviously, but it does work super well. In fact, we've never had a client say no to coming on board with us. We always say no to them, which is relatively new in the agency space, as you can imagine. At the end of the webinar, I dropped a link, which was to be able to get access to the recordings of that training. That's not going to be there forever, just to let you know. I will be removing it because we'll be packaging all of this training up and selling it for much more than what I've offered in the webinar. But if you're quick and you can get access to that, then amazing stuff and good for you. All right, so I guess I'll leave it there. If you did enjoy this video, give us a like. If you've got any questions, comments, and please do subscribe to our channel so you'll be the first to know whenever any new content comes out. I'll speak to you soon.